The 20th century is never old because it is constantly reborn. Daily the command is issued, make up the century. A command that takes more than 3 hours to fulfill. Not an inch is neglected, inside or out. No rooms in home or hostelry are scrubbed and rubbed daily to such a point of freshness and inviting cleanliness. The century is immaculate when a veritable army of experienced workers have finished their appointed task. Trained according to a carefully planned routine, this human machine of many units gets into motion, methodically, quietly, each individual attending to the detail entrusted to it. Each operation bringing the great train one step nearer perfected assembly. Precision, skill, care, dispatch. The traveling public little realizes the unfailing service that is exercised behind the scenes in order that the 20th century may warrant the respect and preference of people who are accustomed to fine appointments in their homes. Fresh from daily sources of supply, here they lie, foods of all kinds, waiting for their allotment to the century's dining service. Fruit, crisp, clean vegetables, choice beverages, meats of the best, condiments, products right from the dairy, the widest assortment of commissary supplies, selected for catering to the taste of people who are bred to gracious living. No hotel is more ready for satisfying the epicure's every want and whim. The quality of these fine foods is matched by their meticulously careful handling, with every precaution for cleanliness. From the moment they leave shelf and refrigerator to their final deposit in kitchen and pantry of the dining car. Everyone at his post, immaculate. As the Proud Limited is rolled into LaSalle Street Station. With carpets laid for those who are about to enjoy its bright and spotless accommodation. There is a period each day of the year known as the Century Hour. Here in Chicago, as in New York and Boston, people gauge their movements, their appointments, their mail, their business by observing the Century Hour. to the last split second. And we are on our way. The 20th Century Limited, clean train of the New York Central Line. From Chicago, we pause at Elkhart, where the Century receives the first of endless inspections under the skilled eyes of hundreds of men, all along its heaving length. Early evening, just a few minutes at Toledo. Time enough for securing today's papers from New York, or for a short turn up and down the platform, while still another corps of workers busy themselves at the Century's never-stopping inspection. Then, once more, the Century rolls on. Experience has taught the guests of the Century to look forward with zest to the dining hour. The very appearance of one table is stimulating. Selections are made, glasses raised for gracious toast. Professional service by professionals, trained in the serving of fine food. Appetite-teasing delicacies top off the famous Century dinner. As soft light glows, comes the fall of night. Some indulge in their own forms of diversion. While for others, retiring time arrives. Fresh, clean, invite repose. In drawing rooms, compartments, individual bedrooms, and spacious berths, refreshing rest is assured on the Century. Asleep or awake, Century travelers revel in the freshness of pure filtered air. In every car, day or night, winter or summer. Ideal traveling comfort, for the 20th century is air-conditioned from end to end. Shortly before the midnight hour, the eternal vigilance of waiting men again inspect at countless posts, while signal lights and every known trackside safety device stand further guard, here as everywhere along the route, including the exclusive automatic stop, which outdoes even human factors of safe operation. And here it is that 2 centuries pass in the night. One bound eastward, and the other speeding from the Atlantic to Chicago. Here, the New England and Boston section leads the New York Central line. And proceeds up the main line of the Boston and Albany toward its destination. The New York section turns down for its final run along the course of the broad-flowing Hudson, famed in history and literary fable. A glimpse of West Point, majestic on the opposite shore, cradle of our Army's commissioned staff, nestled high above the river that rolls on to the sea. Framing vistas of supreme beauty in our windows, as we arise and prepare in comfort and ease for the occupations of the day. Entering the Park Avenue Tunnel, an open, airy, spacious passage to the northern part of the city. While above us, mighty monarchs of architecture tower to the clouds, and streets post with a surge of a new day's task. Here, in the cathedral-like spaces of the terminal itself, throbbing heart of the nation's metropolis, we have arrived, the way of New York, by way of the 20th century limit.
Up to this large railroad station come buses, taxis, and private cars, carrying people who are going to travel by passenger train. At the entrance to the station, the cars stop and the people get out. Thousands of people pass through here every day on their way to and from trains. If their train is not ready, they may stay in this large waiting room, walking about or sitting on big benches. They must go to the ticket window and get tickets before going to the train. Inside each window is a ticket seller. Each one who rides on the train must buy a ticket to the place where he is going. Money from tickets helps pay the cost of running the trains. Near the trains are gates through which passengers must go. A gateman looks at the tickets to be sure that each passenger is on his way to the right train. It is almost time for this passenger train to leave the station, and the passengers are hurrying along the glistening sides of its coaches. The train will be pulled by this big streamlined diesel-electric locomotive. Its engines are warming up, and inside the cab sits Mr. Schroeder, the engineer who has driven locomotives for many years. He is ready. Inside the locomotive further back is the attendant, the engineer's assistant. He stays close to the big motors, for his job is to keep them in good running order. Burned gases from the engines go out through these pipes in the top. Each passenger can take a trunk with him free, and the last of these is going into the baggage car. Into another car go the last bags of mail. Carrying mail also helps pay the cost of running the train. Inside the mail car, railway mail clerks put together papers and letters for each town or city. The conductor, Mr. Owens, is in charge of the train.
All aboard! All aboard!
He signals the engineer. The train must start exactly on time, and now Mr. Schroeder must go to work. All the doors along the train are closed, and the engineer opens the throttle. Sand keeps wheels from slipping on their path of smooth steel rails. Wider and wider the throttle is opened. The long train gathers speed as it winds its way along the tracks. Leading from the gates at the big station are many tracks, which gradually join each other farther out. A train dispatcher knows on which track each train should run, and he switches each to its proper track. The trains run under banks of signals which show the engineers whether they should go ahead or stop. Here is a signal ahead now. It is set for stop. Mr. Schroeder, the engineer, with hand on the brake, sets the air, and iron brakes close on the wheel. Now the signal changes to go. And again the powerful locomotive pulls the train ahead. It is safe now to pass the signal. Inside one of the coaches, Mr. Owens, the conductor, is already taking up tickets, making sure that each one has paid for his ride. The passengers have comfortable seats. They can sit up or lie back easily if they want to rest. Overhead, out of the way, are racks filled with bags and parcels. The cars of the train are joined snugly together by a part called the vestibule. A highway crossing is ahead. Now Mr. Schroeder closes the throttle to slow down the train, for a sharp curve is just ahead. The engineer knows exactly how fast he can go with safety. The train is passing under a safe highway crossing built above the tracks. And now it runs alongside a river. The river valley is level, so it is an easy place to build level tracks. The last car on this train is called the observation car. Plenty of windows and seats all about. Here there are desks where passengers may write letters, and easy chairs and lounges where they may sit comfortably and chat with each other while they enjoy such sights as this beautifully winding stream. These men are whiling away the time playing cards. Those in the observation car now see a long freight train, cattle cars, empty coal cars, the powerful steam engine. Soon, the train is going through a deep cut, made in a hillside, so the tracks could still be level. And now it approaches a tunnel, a big hole bored through a high, steep hill. This tunnel is at historic Harper's Ferry. Over the Potomac River from the state of Maryland into the state of West Virginia. It is mealtime for the passengers, and this is the dining car, an excellent restaurant that is part of the train. The steward shows the people to their seats and gives them menus, large cards with lists of food, so that each can choose the kind of food he likes. Some are already eating. A dining car is a great convenience to people traveling long distances by train. The food is brought in by waiters who are clever at balancing their large trays as the train speeds along. When the diners have decided what they want, the waiters go into the kitchen and repeat their orders to the chief cook, who is called the chef. He must keep many kinds of food on hand. The cooks are clean, and the kitchen of the dining car, although small, is kept spotless. A good meal in the dining car is a pleasant event for passengers during a long ride. Up in his cab, Engineer Schroeder has no thought of food. He must watch the track ahead. The safety of all the passengers depends on his skill and watchfulness. His train approaches a small village and dashes on through. The big steel rails sag under the weight of the rushing train. Onward as darkness falls outside, the ever-watchful engineer speeds his passengers. It is almost bedtime. The Pullman porter begins to change seats into beds, taking out backs of seats to make bottoms for beds called berths. Above the seats, he unlocks a big curving door, and inside finds more articles for making up the berth: mattresses, sheets, and pillows. Some he takes out of the berth for the one below, and others he will use for the berth above. Those who are not yet ready for bed may have tables, magazines, newspapers, and writing materials with which to while away the evening. And always Mr. Schroeder alertly watches his locomotive and the track ahead, in the dark of night, through villages, around curves, through cuts and tunnels, over high bridges. The porter, having made up these two berths, puts in position a little ladder for the passenger who is to sleep above. Through the night rushes the train, its headlights shining on the rails of the track. The attendant, ever on watch over his motors, they watching the track ahead. The safety, the lives of all his passengers depend on the skill and watchfulness of the locomotive engineer.
The porter carries a step for passengers so that they can get off the high cars easily. And as he had promised Mr. Watson, the Pullman conductor sees Bobby off the train. Here's Uncle Ray shouting, "Hi there, cowboy." The long ride is over. Uncle Ray's Jeep is waiting. The train starts off again, and off goes Bob to the ranch, to new adventures with cowboys and horses. But the train goes on across more mountains, more valleys, across desert country until it reaches its destination, California.
Great Railroad at Work is a title full of meaning. The mightiest machines produced by human ingenuity are indeed useless unless guided and serviced by the intelligence and skill of man. We are, of course, very proud of our mechanical equipment, but we are prouder still of the men who keep it running. The New Haven Railroad is more than just ties, rails, and rolling stock. It is primarily people. People whose skill, devotion, courage, and strict adherence to the finest railroad practices have made possible its record of safety, efficiency, and progress.
Right, Mr. Palmer. And now let's have motion pictures take us behind the scenes of a great railroad at work. We'll see two general phases: railroad operation and railroad maintenance. Trains are of two kinds, passenger and freight. Let's begin with the passenger. The locomotive backing into the yards to pick up the cars of the Yankee Clipper. The cars, meanwhile, have been made ready for the passengers, and having them clean and sanitary is Rule A in the art of railroading. Repair shops. Here passenger coaches, dining cars, and grill cars are brought to be repaired or rebuilt. They're put through the latest processes of cleaning and sanitation. There's an imposing background of work behind the picture of a smart, modern car in a passenger train. Sealing of car windows. And here we find a device of technical science to enable you to see better as you gaze at the scenery. Each streamlined window consists of 2 panes of glass held apart by rubber spacers. These rubber spacers seal the inner surfaces of the glass against the outside air. Between the panes, dry nitrogen is forced to keep them from being fogged by condensing moisture. Into the yards backs the locomotive to pick up the cars. Meanwhile, at the commissary, supplies of food and drink for the dining car are being allotted and checked.
10 baked beans? Check. 4 tomatoes? Check. 6 tomatoes? Check. 6 pigs? Check. 1 Rhine wine? Check. 2 palm wines? Check. 12 Manhattans? Check. 12 martinis? Check. Right. Have some chicken fricassee tonight.
Yeah, that's very nice.
The amount of groceries they can stow into the small pantry space that car dimensions permit would make a housewife think that it's all magic. But then, as the ponderous locomotive backs gently and is coupled to the cars, we may reflect that there is a lot of magic in a railroad. The Clipper pulls out of the yards on its way to the station. Everything timed to the second. On this railroad, hundreds of passenger trains are made up every day, in addition to hundreds of freight trains. They operate through southern New England day and night with a magic of timing. Strange geometries of tracks in the yards, and the number of switches there calls for deft and intricate manipulation. into the station. The train can be controlled, air braked, by the rear trainman as well as by the engineer in front. A large factor of safety. South Station in Boston. The old familiar scene, and never without a thrill. Passengers going to a train.
This is our little girl. She's going all the way to
You'll take
New York.
good care of her.
Certainly will, ma'am. Step right in.
Bye, Mommy. Bye, darling.
Hey, wait a minute!
Woman in Boston buying a bicycle for her nephew in New York, and he'll get it the next day. This takes us to the subject of freight trains. Shipments of freight are in two classes, carloads and less than carload lots. Delivered to the freight depot and recorded with a weighbill, the boy's bicycle is stowed safely and securely for the trip. There's an art in stowing all sorts of freight securely in a car, and also in switching the cars through the yard. The powerful diesel switcher is the last word in this type of modern mechanism, one of the busiest of workers in the realm of railroading, practically a 24-hour-a-day worker. A new coordination of rail and highway transportation is seen as they load a trailer onto a flat car. The trailer has picked up packages from all over Boston to be distributed in New York. Ordinarily, the tractor pulling the trailer would have made the trip to New York by highway. But now the trailer is securely fastened on the flat car and then carried to the metropolis. This avoids a truck trip to New York, a large saving of gasoline and of rubber tires. Mighty important in these days of wartime shortages with rubber tires rationed. Locomotive is coupled to the cars, and the theme is Industrial Products of New England on their way. They represent the work and skill of New England factories. Transporting them is an equal task of work and skill. The mighty system of operations embodied in the speeding freight train. And the rhythm of the rails seems to sing, New England at work, New England on the move. A signal tower, which trains to and from New York will pass. One of many sentinels of safety. Vigilant alertness 24 hours a day. When a train passes, the signalman flashes the report to division headquarters.
Groton West 177 by at 2:15, engine 1404 with 13 cars. Line up on track 1 for the Clipper.
Freight angle intervenes. For railroad's two categories, passenger and freight, are another form of life's two divisions, people and things. South America is the destination of this large and intricate machine. Carefully crated, it will go by ship, but first it must be taken by rail down England to the harbor. An export angle of freight service. Industrial New England is of historic importance in the foreign trade of this nation. Passenger service takes plenty of account of passengers' appetites. The grill car is for the less formal meal than the diner provides.
Thank you.
Items 1, 2, 3, and 4 correspond to those up on the board.
Do you suppose I could have that roast beef rare?
Certainly.
All right, then I'd like rare roast beef with mashed potatoes and tea.
Would you like something to drink?
Yes, tea with lemon.
Tea with lemon, thank you.
The dining car is a place of leisurely luxury, regaling yourself while the passing scenery provides entertainment.
One for Boston Scrod, and the Scrod is very nice today. One French fried potato, one lettuce and tomato salad, one coffee, one apple pie.
How's the Boston Scrod, French fried potatoes? Coming out. Up on the Boston Scrod.
Thank you, Chef. Pepper soup, please.
This classification yard shows us an ingenious angle of freight transportation. It has a sort of hill, which they call the hump. This hill is a key factor in what we'll see, the classification of freight cars. They are oiled while on the move, on their way up the hump. They go on to the top of the slope. The purpose of all this is to classify incoming trains so they can be reassembled as other trains, each to go to a different destination. The yard master directs the switching. The car is to be switched to various tracks.
Your second sheet, 22 to 24, 43 to 33, 48 to 13.
At the top of the hump, cars are uncoupled, and they roll down by gravity. Some cars would get up too much speed if it weren't for the retarder, a device for checking their speed. In the retarding tower, the speed is governed, electrically controlled. Switches direct the cars to the right tracks, where they join other cars to make new trains for other destinations. We see the crate of machinery for South America going over the hump. The train in which this car arrived consists of cars bound for different destinations. In the classification yard, it will join a train going to the harbor. Less than carload lots are reclassified as this LCL transfer. Just as whole trains must be rearranged with reference to the destinations of the cars, so must individual consignments of merchandise in a car be rearranged with reference to their destinations. And this is done here. The car is unloaded, and the merchandise is reassembled in other cars. And these cars are then attached to trains bound for many, many places. The engine house, where running repairs are made. We see another phase of railroading, maintenance of equipment. There are light repairs made at many points on the railroad. And there are heavy repairs which are made in a great locomotive shop. Here's a ponderous fantasy of fire and steel, the mighty forge of a modern Vulcan. All locomotives are overhauled periodically. Each one, after going from 120,000 to 400,000 miles, is sent to the shop for a complete overhauling. Slip track is an oil track where overhauled locomotives get final tests. They can be driven many miles at all speeds forward and backward on a track that simulates conditions of speed. A monster locomotive, thoroughly overhauled, is a symbol of that factor so vital in all mechanics, all industry, maintenance. A mechanized army, for example, is as good as its maintenance, and so is a railroad. A locomotive must be serviced, and that occurs at many places along the line. It requires, for example, sand to give the big drive wheels traction when the rails are wet and slippery. And coal to be blown automatically into the firebox. The fireman just operates a lever. The coal pile is a mountain. Countless tons of the black fuel stored against any emergency, anything that might cause a shortage. The coal pile tells us that a railroad is not only a mover of things, it is also a buyer of things. This we see vividly at one of the warehouses, stocked with shovels, brooms, locomotive and car replacement parts, tools for track, shop and building maintenance, signal equipment, and countless other miscellaneous items a railroad needs. Ties go with rails as ham with eggs. As in the case of coal, the stocks of railroad ties are immense, a matter of acres. It takes more than 3,000 ties to make just 1 mile of standard railroad track. Lumber to hold up steel, and oil for fuel, for every sort of lubrication, and for paint. Salvage is a large activity. Everything possible is saved and put away for future use. Railroad economy. Laboratory tests for all vital materials purchased by the railroad. Metals, for example, are subjected to exacting tests. In the chemical laboratories, the magic of modern alchemy is applied to the checking of the materials in the interest of safety, efficiency, and economy. And there's research here to find new things, new combinations, new ways of applying chemical science to railroading. The micrometallograph camera analyzes many materials for railroading with ultra-modern science. Vast amount of technology, research, experimentation is embodied, for example, in these exceedingly modern diesel road locomotives, which are capable of being used with equal effectiveness in either passenger or freight service. Steam and steel, taking a treasure store of New England merchandise into the night. The night freight calls our attention to an element of time, the bright time of day, and here's the dark time of night. Railroading is on a 24-hour schedule. Despite the elements, and never mind the weather, be it fair or stormy, hail, sleet or snow, the night freight must go through. The conductor in the caboose keeps a record of all the cars. And the night freight seems to sing a song of work, a song with the refrain, every day, 24 hours a day. The Yankee Clipper, meanwhile, arrives at New Haven, and this brings a transformation from steam to electricity, from coal and fire to volts and amperes. The steam locomotive leaves the train. From Boston and from Springfield to New Haven, the motive power is provided by superheated steam. Then for the remainder of the run, the energy to drive the wheels is provided by dynamos. The electric locomotive is a thing of streamlined efficiency, a monarch of high tension. Electricity has been a comparatively recent story in American railroading. It began in 1895 on the New Haven Railroad, which pioneered in overhead high-tension lines. Now the Clipper goes speeding under electrical power. We're in a new world of railroading, a realm where 100 thunderbolts of Jupiter are harnessed to turn the wheels of trains. The sources of electric power are coal and steam, and at this railroad-owned powerhouse, the boilers are 60 feet high. The heat meters register 2,000 degrees, generating steam with a pressure of 300 pounds to the square inch. Powdered coal blown into the furnace and burning in suspension in the air. The turbo generators hum at 1,500 revolutions per minute to produce in a single year over 100 million kilowatts of electricity. The nerve center of the powerhouse, the main control room with its elaborate equipment. Here, watchful eyes check the surge of power through the overhead lines. Railroad power. A masterpiece of roadbed construction and maintenance is this 4-track electrified right-of-way. Over it pass between 600 and 700 trains a day. The Yankee Clipper, now electrified, approaching the environs of New York, which means it will soon go underground because the tracks for miles proceed beneath traffic and beneath buildings of the metropolis. We pass into a subterranean world, a signal tower underground. Here more than 600 trains a day are guided in and out over the 107 tracks of Grand Central Terminal.
28 up H. 28 up H. 18 out C. 18 out B. 84 up B. 84 up B. Put him on the outbound tower, C. 29 up I. 23 to way D. 23 to the way of D. Track G to track 40 with the clipper. G to 40 with the clipper.
On time, as the train board indicates. Here she comes, the Yankee Clipper. It's coming on the upper level. There are 2 levels of underground tracks for the trains that carry 42 million passengers in and out of Grand Central Terminal every year. There's our boxed machine bound for Rio. From the flat car that brought it to New York, the railroad delivers the consignment on a lighter to its berth aboard the ship. The railroad owns 42 of those ungainly barges with the big derricks. They're strong and sturdy. Some of them can be loaded with 500 tons of freight. What about the tugboat? It's also railroad owned. The railroad owns 13 tugs. They're famous throughout New York Harbor. The railroad owns and operates many other pieces of marine equipment. And so the case of machinery is on its way to be stowed aboard ship, and then south into the tropics, past the equator, to be put into service in the land of the Amazon. New England machines to modernize latitudes of jungle green.
Western Avenue, New York. Check. Come on, lady.
That's the bicycle bought by Auntie in Boston for her nephew in New York. It's to be delivered to the lucky lad by the railroad through its pickup and delivery system. This is another modern phase of railroading. This is a water gateway for the interchange of freight cars between railroads. New York, the East River. When freight cars from New England are destined for points outside of New England, they may come here. They're to go over the lines of other railroads. And how is the transfer affected? We see a water phase of operation that you might not readily associate with a railroad. A car ferry, and the dock apron can be moved up and down to follow the tide. The car float arrives with cars from the New Jersey side. They're from points south and west and are destined for New England. Raw materials for the industries of New England. And the car float is locked to the dock apron. Steel freight cars roll onto the tracks of the float. Manufactured articles made in large part from raw materials brought previously into New England. On the other side of the river, they will roll similarly onto the tracks of the railroad that is to take them on to complete their journey to some point in this immense country of ours. New England carload lots bound for everywhere. This is the New Haven Rail Gateway up in New York State. It's another point where railroads meet and where freight cars are interchanged. Those are cars loaded with merchandise for New England, raw materials and perishable food, packing house and dairy products from Chicago and Kansas City, oranges and grapefruit from California and Arizona, onions from Texas, meat from Sioux City. It's early morning at a New England city. Freight cars full of fresh food. The beginning of the day, the right time for food distribution. After cars are unloaded, they are pulled into the yards for inspection. Here a string of them are going to the yards to meet the keen eye of the inspector. Cars are carefully inspected at regular intervals. And when something wrong is found, the car is tagged. Bad order, familiarly known as B.O. The car then goes to B.O. Brown's yard. Those are his real initials, appropriately. In the yard, light repairs are made. For heavy repairs, freight cars are brought to the back shops here. Wheels are pressed off the axles by the application of enormous pressure. Hundreds of tons. After being repaired to exacting standards of safety, wheels are pressed back onto their axles under pressure. No bolts or screws needed to keep the wheel securely in place. Just that enormous pressure. These pictures have shown us vast magnitudes of material and work. They have revealed to us a complicated industrial system in action, a system of many interlocking parts, operation and maintenance, passenger and freight, carload and less than carload lots, steam and electrification, light repairs and heavy repairs. All these coordinated with a perfection of timing, the many parts working together harmoniously, a giant clockwork of transportation, an American railroad. All this is typical of the industrial genius of America. It is an example of that world-important thing on which this nation and our brother nations must rely in a perilous war of worldwide scope. Our victory depends first of all on the American gift for making giant industrial systems of production and transport operate with an amount of efficiency that no other nation can match. Such is the larger meaning of these scenes of a great American railroad at work. The human factor is the true source of all the mechanical wonder. It is as New Haven President Palmer told us, people whose skill, devotion, courage, and strict adherence to the finest railroad practices have made possible this railroad's record of safety, efficiency, and progress.
Of swift, flexible transportation. But, me, I'm just an old New York City elevated car. Weather-beaten, brow-beaten, just plain beaten. Oh, I'm by no means alone in the world. Quite a few of my kin have escaped the Kinnan pile, up to now. But all signs point to our days being numbered. The 3rd Avenue branch is the last remaining limb of my family tree. I remember how, when a youngster, we did our family chores with wood-burning engines. But soon we were taught that if we were to grow into a good, healthy system, we'd have to lead a cleaner life. So they shot us full of electricity, and we grew and grew until our structures became the transportation backbone of the largest city in the world. Our gable stations were a new high in architectural achievement when built. All went well until the 1930s, when we noticed that subways were undermining our security. When we failed to carry our customary total of 1 million passengers a day, zip, the props were pulled out from under us. Acetylene torches did the rest. A horrible, horrible death for the poor old 2nd, 6th, and 9th Avenue branches. Our terrific noise, if you ask me, is one big reason for our downfall. But can we help it if the canyons of buildings we run through kick our sound around? Few folks realize that we have our quieter side. Why, one of our spurs mingles with the stately trees and fragrant flowers of the Bronx Park. I have to take a run downtown now. If you stay with me, I can show you a New York City no other means of transportation can. From my windows, you will get glimpses of the most famous buildings in the world. For my windows, well, just wait. We have to pass through the dense Bronx tenement district before coming to Manhattan. It's an overall trip of 15 miles to South Ferry. From there, you'll be able to see the Statue of Liberty. This stretch, sandwiched between the tenements, I always call Clothesline Alley. In a sense, it's my gateway to Manhattan. For outside it, just around this big curve, we cross the Harlem River, which separates the Bronx from Manhattan. Here, under my bridge, is where East Side kids swim. Straight as a die now, down 3rd Avenue toward Midtown. Out of my windows along the way, I'm much too often reminded of my fate. Whole blocks of old New York being turned under to make way for the new. Even though the 3rd Avenue is the last of the L's, there are still over 1,000 people employed in operating us, and we carry 270,000 passengers a day. Kind of a melting pot on wheels, I am. I carry the old and the young, the dignified and the not so dignified, the pious and the hopeless. The towers of the Waldorf Astoria, where millionaires and visiting royalty stay, tell my passengers that we have reached Midtown Manhattan. The Chrysler Building, Grand Central Terminal, the Empire State Building, all in sight from my trembling station, which stands in the middle of famed 42nd Street. With the swirling activity of Midtown behind us, we now proceed south to Brooklyn Bridge and the Lower East Side made famous in song. The New York of the Smiths, the Cantors, Jessels, Winchells, the Rooneys, and the O'Grady's. The mysteries of the Bowery and Chinatown are ever present under my rails. In Chinatown's Chatham Square, our route divides itself. The train to the left is ours, proceeding to South Ferry, as I promised you we would. The other is on its way to our City Hall terminal, neighboring the Woolworth building. On we go, our route becoming ever narrower, like a mountain stream cutting its way through a deep, booming gorge. We cross Wall Street and arrive at the little station where many a banker has paused to rub his palms, not in anticipation of the day's financial gains, but to warm his hands over the friendly, pot-bellied stove.
Finally, our route swings out into the comparative open. And from my windows, the confining walls of skyscrapers give way to the maritime scene in New York Bay. South Ferry, where all the L's used to terminate. Passengers transferring to Staten Island ferry boats or for the Statue of Liberty. To a lot of people, I mean a lot of things. One sightseeing guide often refers to my structure as the eighth wonder of the world. During L construction in the 1870s, the big wonder used to be how we'd keep from toppling into the street. To the aged, I am their past, still living. To childhood, I am fascination. To folks living along the tracks, I'm everything, from a noisy nuisance to something as natural as morning, noon, and night. Well, that's the picture, as of now. Time, borrowed time, will tell the rest.
Today, promised my wife I'd eat home for a change.
Miss all the latest news.
Uh-huh, and arguments.
Well, see ya. Say hello to Kelly for me.
Say, Padre.
Yeah?
I'm looking for a joint of some sort around here called Scotty's. Can you tell me where it is?
Yeah. I can tell you something else, too, mister.
What's that?
Don't let Kelly hear you call Scotty's a joint.
Kelly? Who's Kelly?
On the hill to the right. You can't miss it. Oh, and say hello to Kelly for me.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, Rod. Hi. Coffee.
Hi, Johnny.
James Kelly.
James Kelly.
I must be getting old. I keep hearing echoes. Did you get your message on the board, George?
Yeah, I saw it when I came in.
Good. 85, 90, $1. Thanks a lot, George.
I'll bet you're Kelly.
Well, you wouldn't want to bet with me. I happen to know.
I might have guessed it.
What'd you say?
I was looking for a superintendent named Paul Todd. I was told I'd probably find him in here.
Well, no, he's not here now, but he usually comes in about this time.
Oh, well, I guess I'll wait then.
All right.
Could I trouble you for a cup of coffee?
Trouble?
I brought you some more coffee, Kelly.
Oh, good.
Hey, how about a cup of coffee, huh? Good and hot, easy on the cream, heavy on the sugar.
No trouble at all.
Russ, how about those twins of yours? I've been saving a page one spot for the news, you know.
Any day now.
Hey, Bill. Yeah? What's all this about? Oh, well, that's all I know about it, just what it says there. Hey, you got a cigarette? Thanks. I understand they've already had a program on steel, one on automobiles, now it's railroads. That I want to see. Oh, thanks, Pete. Oh, why not? After all, what's more important to the welfare of people and business than the railroads?
Sure, but how can they tell the story of the railroads in one program? Maybe with 6, but one?
I've been talking railroading to my wife for 20 years. I haven't repeated myself once. Not funny? Not funny.
Well, what's so hard? I got all they need for a TV show. Look, every hour, 1,000 trains leave somewhere for somewhere. 4,500 carloads of freight are shipped. 4,500 are received. 15,000 railway express shipments are handled. 1,300,000 pounds of U.S. mail. Yeah, every hour.
Scotty, you and your facts and figures.
Yeah, well, it comes easy after listening to you guys for 15 years.
Here you are.
Oh, thank you. Say, what's all the fuss about?
Fuss? What fuss?
You never rode this. What do you mean it's always like this in here? I have to.
This. You should be here when they start discussing baseball. Or better yet, Congress.
Like I was telling my brother-in-law from Detroit.
Oh, I forgot your spoon. Back on track 1, boys.
Like I was telling my brother-in-law from Detroit. Sure, I said, automobiles are mighty important. But how would they make them if it wasn't for the tons of steel the railroads haul to your factory? Yeah, 25,000 tons a day, along with 450,000 square feet of plate glass, 900,000 pounds of copper, and... Oh, sorry, Russ. Why pick autos?
Bill?
Hey, Sonny. How would you make anything without railroads? Refrigerators, breakfast food, airplanes, you name it.
Here you are.
Tell me, don't you get tired of railroad talk in here all the time?
No, I like it. Why?
Oh, just curious. You see, I'm not a railroad man.
Oh, not really.
So maybe it's hard for me to swallow all this talk about how important railroads are. After all, almost everything I buy seems to be delivered to my house by truck.
After it's first been hauled by railroads about 100 or 1,000 miles.
Change, Kelly.
Excuse me.
Who's the city boy, Bill? Never saw him before.
Maybe they ought to put a memory genius like Scotty on this TV show.
Hey, how about that?
Oh, he's only kidding, Scotty.
Oh, no. Maybe some MC fella gets me up there and asks me questions about the railroads. Tries to stop me, see? Might be terrific.
I'll take wrestling.
Maybe they'll call me the human encyclopedia. Oh, brother. How much railroad track in the nation maybe this fella has? Right off, I tell him. Nearly 400,000 miles. How much freight do the railroads haul? More tons of freight, more miles than all other forms of transportation put together. How much taxes do the railroads pay in a year? $1,250 million. How much does it cost to haul a ton of freight a mile by railroads? Averages less than a cent and a half. You can't stop me, you see? Then maybe he turns to the studio audience and he says, anybody in the audience got a question to ask?
Yes, I have. What happened to those ham and eggs I ordered?
Coming up. But don't forget, these are hauled by the railroads, too.
Yes, I know.
You know, maybe Scotty's got something there. On that 400,000 miles of track business, I mean.
Well, Bill's paid for and maintained by the railroads, don't forget that. And with every mile of line, you got a cash investment of $110,000. Don't forget that.
And maybe that's the story this TV program ought to tell. Suppose you took just one moment. You showed the people what's happening on the railroad tracks of the nation in a single moment. That'd be something, wouldn't it?
And see the headline. Editor turns TV producer.
Okay, but look. Now maybe you have this fellow as he's sort of a narrator. While he talks, you show pictures of what's happening along the 400,000 miles of track. Maybe he'll start off by saying, right at this moment, right while you're thinking about it.
At this moment, as in every moment of America's history, the wealth of the nation lies dispersed far and wide throughout a vast continent. To make this reservoir of wealth useful, huge quantities of raw materials must be moved regularly to the centers of production. Finished goods must move freely to the marketplaces of the nation and the world. In the endless and indispensable movement of materials and goods, the greatest role is that played by the railroads of America. At this moment, the railroads are hauling the food products on which the health and vitality of the nation depend. Moving the endless variety of raw materials which the industries of the nation will refine, convert, fabricate, process, and manufacture. This moment, the railroads are carrying the finished products of industry and agriculture, which the people of the world will buy, sell, and use. As always, the welfare of the nation depends upon its railroads.
The welfare of the nation depends on the railroads. I wonder just how many people up and down all the main streets realize that.
To haul the same load carried by one big freight train would take a convoy of heavy trucks 10 miles long. Just one train, mind you. And about 15,000 freight trains are on the move every day.
Nice and cold, Scotty.
Tell you what I wouldn't mind them showing on TV, especially for those people who never think much about railroads. If it weren't for railroads, how would you move large equipment across the country? Like that, for instance. Or something that size.
As long as you're talking about the hauling jobs the roads do, how about mail?
About 90% of all intercity mail is carried by the railroad. And what's more, Uncle Sam paid the railroads less to move that 90%, and it cost him to move the remaining 10. And don't forget express. The railroads pick up and deliver over 350,000 express packages a day.
Kelly, how about another cup of coffee?
Oh, sure. Say, you know, I've been thinking about that remark you made a few minutes ago.
About railroads being overrated?
Yes.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I know that they've been important, at least in the past. But this is a modern age. And
and I suppose railroads aren't modern.
Well, maybe I don't know enough about railroads.
Maybe. You and a lot of other people.
Pick it up, Kelly.
Okay. Anyway, stick around. You might find it interesting.
I will.
There's another story they could put on TV.
See you later.
So long, Pete.
Yeah.
About all the advances the railroads have made.
Correction. Are making all the time. At a cost of over $1 billion a year.
And all their own dough. I mean, private capital. Today you've got more tonnage moving in a single train, faster movement of freight,
Why?
Why? A whole fistful of reasons.
And I'll tell you one of them. Power. Take the new diesels. They've speeded up switching and train makeup operations. And at this moment, new diesel power is pulling greater tonnage trains than ever before. And pulling freight at passenger train speeds, too.
Diesels are hauling 3/4 of the nation's rail traffic.
And even newer types of power are being tested all the time. Right along with the new motive power, you can talk about the advances in air brakes. Added power made faster, heavier trains possible. Advances in air brakes make it practical.
The force it takes to stop a freight train going 60 miles an hour would be enough to lift that whole train 10 stories in the air.
That's a lot of force. How many people realize that with a simple movement of a single lever, an engineer can put that kind of force into action? With just one lever, he has complete and positive control of the longest and heaviest freight train on the steepest grade. Because of air brake improvements, even the fastest train loads of livestock or fragile merchandise can be brought smoothly and swiftly to a stop without injury or damage. But power and brakes are only part of the story. Like today, trains run with greater regularity and dependability, yet with greater safety than ever before, because of the big advances made in the signal systems. With today's modern systems, trains can automatically control signals behind them. Following trains get an immediate and clear picture of conditions ahead. The wayside signals are duplicated in locomotive cabs. Regardless of outside conditions, the engine man always has a clear vision of the signals which ride with him in the cab. Nowadays, two-way train traffic can move with greater speed and safety over single-track systems than ever before. Why? Because train traffic can be handled by signals over hundreds of miles of track from a remote tower by a single man. Lights show the location of every train. By simply flipping levers, he can put trains on sidings. And allow others to move by in the opposite direction on the main line. Faster train movements, safer. I wonder how many folks know why.
Well, Bill, there's this to be said.
New communication methods doing a lot to speed up train movement, eliminate delays, and increase safety.
Okay, Dick. Flagman's back on.
Right.
Eastbound 9696 to eastbound 9541.
Okay, eastbound 9541. Everything looks good.
Okay, 9694. Putting you on a siding at Quinton. Conductor 9604 to Great Tower. Cattle on the track. Had to stop a mile south of Crooks Road.
Just another example of modern methods the railroads use.
You're right there, Bill, and what's more...
There's more to the story why freight shipments are moving faster today. Right at this moment. Improved systems for classifying cars. Freight cars can be classified at the rate of 1 every 12 seconds by a single operator in a tower. He pushes various speed selector buttons and retarders grip freight wheels with the exact amount of pressure to slow the car down to the speed the operator selects. It's a long story, the story of the advancing rails.
I'll say it's a long story.
Yeah, and it could go on, too, about rails, roadbeds, and routes. The new rails you have today are heavier, sturdier, and made of better metal. And the new roadbeds being put down. How much faster they're made. How much faster rails are being laid because of modern mechanized equipment. New rails, new roadbeds, new track laying methods.
grades reduced, sharp curves eliminated, so that goods and people move more smoothly, safely, and faster than ever before. This TV program ought to have the story on modern passenger service. How many people know that they can enjoy the same comfort on trains as in their own living rooms? And the same kind of safety, too. It would be a mighty interesting story on passenger service, believe me.
Bill, telephone.
Okay, Kelly, thanks. You know, they shouldn't forget the number of purchases the railroads make either. All the things it takes to give the public modern transportation service. How many items, Scotty?
Oh, nearly 100,000 different items from manufacturers and suppliers in over 12,000 cities and towns. The bill amounts to almost $7 million a day.
And that's all railroad dough, no subsidies, no tax money.
Bill, shall I tell him you call him back?
And I'll be right there. Any way you look at it, it's a tough story to tell in half an hour.
And I don't envy the guy who's got the job.
Now, that's me.
Say, I'm sorry about Paul Todd. He's usually here.
Oh, that's quite all right. I enjoyed the wait.
You know, maybe you want to see this new TV show the boys have been talking about.
You think it'll be any good?
Yeah.
Well, I sure hope so.
I hope so, too.
$25, $50 a dollar. Thanks a lot, and stop back again sometime.
Well, thank you. I might surprise you and do just that.
Kelly, did you know that 4,500...
Oh, Scotty, not tonight.
Figures don't lie.
Why, thank you, Scotty.
Good night, Kelly.
Tonight we bring you another in a series of public service programs featuring the American private businesses upon which our whole way of living depends. This is a story which begins in the research centers and laboratories of railroads, railroad associations, universities, engineering societies, and in the research facilities of thousands of suppliers and manufacturers. This is the story of the advancing rails. It's an important story, for no matter who you are, where you are, or what you do, the railroads influence your life and the way you live. Tonight we present the story of the nation's railroads, a story happening at this moment.
Hey, that fella's face looks mighty familiar.
It should.
Isn't that the fellow who was having coffee here a couple of weeks ago when we were all
That's
talking
him. And if you ask me, he's a wise guy.
Hey, look, Bill. They're doing just what you were talking about. Look at that.
As a private business, the railroads welded a continent into a nation, help little shops become large factories, small towns become cities, linked every community with every other community. The welfare of other businesses and the welfare of the nation's people have and always will depend heavily upon the railroads continuing to operate as a private business, continuing to advance, continuing with these advances and as private businesses to help keep the nation prosperous in times of peace, strong in times of emergency. Under a free and enterprising system of business operation, the railroads can serve you best.
Kelly, I don't think that fella's a wise guy. That program's good.
Kelly, I hope you find the TV program as good as I found your coffee and Irish advice. John O'Shea.
Well, kind of a nice wise guy anyway.